What's it like when you're walking around BFE, Michigan?
Oh my God.
You show up to Jim's house, and you knock on the door, and you say, "Do you want to buy my cable or whatever you're selling?" Talk about a story and what that experience was like.
Well, listen, speaking of the Silicon Slopes, I was selling Dish Networker, the Hoppa, as they like to say, even though, and again, love to my Dish family, but yeah, quick story. So, first of all, I think one of the advantages of doing that job was I don't think that I will ever work a harder job in my life. And I don't say that hyperbolically. I was working 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, walking in Grand Rapids, Michigan in the middle of the summer, which for those of you who aren't aware is 30 miles east of a lake. So you can imagine how freaking, excuse me. Is this, what are we
You
doing
can say
with
whatever you want. We have no sponsors. We have nothing to sell you. We're just here.
I was like, I don't want to demonetize future episodes. Anyways, yeah, very freaking humid and typically 80 to 90 degrees, walking 12 miles a day selling satellite TV, which you can imagine is a fairly hard thing to sell people who are skeptics of having a dish on their roof. And given, I guess kind of the weight of history behind, you look at an old satellite and it's 30 feet tall and it's sitting in someone's backyard like they're UFO stalking. Hard to sell someone a new satellite, even if it's more trimmed. Quick story on that, though. And I pretty much feel like I was a therapist for old people, but one day I went an hour and a half north of Grand Rapids in the middle of nowhere, came across this house that looked foreclosed. But I figured I saw a satellite in the roof. It was a DirecTV satellite. If you have satellite now, you're probably going to be more likely to switch, right? It's like going into, if thinking about Qualtrics, going into someone who has, let's say, an employee experience platform. It's broken, it's outdated. Take out that competitor. Saw the satellite in the roof, so I was like, I don't care if this is foreclosed. I'm seeing who's in there. Go up, knock on the door. A guy comes out, and I'm not making this up, in a leotard with jeans, so it wasn't full, but leotard top, and two pistols tucked in his waistband. And he shows me the pistols. He kind of squares up, and he's like, "Can I help you?" And I go into my pitch. I'm like, "Hey, I saw the satellite in your roof. How do you feel about DirecTV? Blah blah blah." And he was like, "I'd feel a lot better if you got off my property." And I said,
"Classic objection."
Yeah. I said, "Oh my God, I don't want to be in this line of work anymore." But then, I said, "Okay," and I left. But he watches me leave. And remind you, like, I'm in a small town, one stoplight. So like there are 30 or something homes on a grid pattern, and you can see all 30 homes. And the rest of the day, I'm knocking in this little town because typically when you're off the beaten path, these folks are getting schemed more than others. If you're in remote wilderness, XYZ, there aren't going to be a lot of cable competitors, so you can hike up prices on satellite. So I stayed there, but this guy watched me all day. Like, he was never more than a block away from me, and I saw him out of the corner of my eye, and I thought he was going to call the cops on me, but thankfully I left before he could. So, crazy line of work.
Yeah, it's one thing getting an objection on a cold call when they say they're not interested. It's another thing when they pull a gun on you and watch you the rest of the day.
Yeah, that's why, I think anyone that complains about a job like this, even though sales can be hard, like, that wasn't even really anything, but just get out in the field and do outside sales or field sales, and you'll know what challenging is.